What is up, everybody? Thanks for tuning into That's Wrestling. Thanks for watching on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching this or on YouTube and you like to check this out as a podcast, you can do that by heading over to thatswrestling.com or searching on all your favorite podcast apps. If you are listening to this as a podcast, head over to YouTube and search for That's Wrestling and subscribe to the channel because I do all of these live. So if you'd like to participate, you gotta be on YouTube for that when I do it live, and hit the little bell notification so it lets you know when I go live so you can participate in the chat. Other things just to mention, I am looking for co-hosts for this show. So if you're interested in being a co-host for AEW stuff or New Japan stuff or for both, or you just want to fill in whenever somebody isn't available or anything like that, you can do that. Shoot me an email, eric@thatswrestling.com, and we can discuss the possibilities of doing all that fun stuff. And I believe that is pretty much it. Yeah, comments, question, feedback. You can also send to that same place, eric@thatswrestling.com. So, AEW Revolution, I guess this makes it their fourth pay-per-view because we have Double or Nothing coming up. So we are now almost a year in since the first Double or Nothing, so the official first show of AEW. And wow, I have to say that this was one heck of a pay-per-view, and it was worth every penny. I do not mind paying for shows like these. We've been a bit spoiled over the years with some lower price pay-per-views, especially WWE has just been, $10 a month to have the network, and then they just give you all the pay-per-views, or I guess they're not even pay-per-views at this point because you can only get them on the network. So whatever, special events. But in this case, it is a pay-per-view. They have to earn your money, and I believe tonight they definitely earned their money from anybody who happened to pay for this pay-per-view. So big fan of it, and we'll get into this show here. So the pre-show, there was some miscommunication, I guess, about what was going to be, or I guess where the pay-per-view was actually going to be, because I was looking for it on YouTube and it did not show up on YouTube. And then I was in the chat for the Fight TV feed, and somebody mentioned, hey, it's up on Twitter. And then finally somebody mentioned that, hey, the pre-show is showing up here on Fight as well. I tried to, so I guess there was a little miscommunication because it's been on the YouTube channel as well as like BR Live, but this time it showed up on Twitter and it did show up on Fight. So I'm guessing it was on BR Live as well, but I hadn't checked there yet until somebody said that, hey, here it is on Fight, and that's where I was going to be watching the pay-per-view, so I just stuck with Fight. But really, the biggest things that happened, there was a match. It was SCU versus Dark Order, which is a match that had been announced. I forgot it in my predictions. I also forgot freaking... what was it? I didn't even address Cody versus MJF because when I was looking at the AEW website, that match was not listed for the show. So I totally spaced it and didn't even address my predictions on how that match was going to go down. So AEW needs to work on getting their website together because their website is not updated enough. It's got out-of-date information. Just like I was saying, I went, I did the Dynamite review on Friday, and they didn't have every match up there on the events page on the website, which makes absolutely no sense why they would screw that up. But they did. So they need to get their website in order. It's like, well, where am I going to go check out the card? Oh, I know. AEW's website has to have it. No, they didn't. So that was a little bit disappointing. So they should get on. Anyways, SCU versus Dark Order was on the pre-show. The match was a match. Nothing spectacular happened, but Dark Order did win the match. And what happened after the match is kind of the more noteworthy, I guess. And after the match, Dark Order starts beating up Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian. They were the ones they were facing from SCU. And then Colt Cabana comes down and help out SCU, but he gets beaten down. And then the Dark Order music starts playing. And the Dark Order is like, what is happening? And there is somebody walking out in this massive robe. And he's up on the ramp. And then he drops the robe, and it's Christopher Daniels. He runs into the ring to help out his SCU brethren. So it is quite obviously at this point, Christopher Daniels is not part of the Dark Order. It was a nice little touch. The Dark Order was not like excited. They acted confused because they knew the Exalted One shouldn't be there. So they knew whoever it was in the robes was not the Exalted One, or whatever they are going to be calling this person. It seems that that's going to be the way they're going to go. And that was kind of it. Christopher Daniels and SCU, Colt Cabana, just send the Dark Order packing, and they scurry away. Next up, there was a quick Jurassic Express promo. But I totally missed everything that Luchasaurus said because I was busy watching Jungle Boy and Marco Stunt in the background. I believe at one point, Jungle Boy was like motioning to try to put his arm around Lexi, and then like Marco pushed him away, and then Marco was like leaning in trying to smell Lexi. So the two of them in the background were hilarious and just trying to not get caught by doing whatever creepy stuff they were doing in the background. And that was about it. And next up, there was an ad for the Young Bucks. They have a autobiography coming out soon, so that should be interesting. It's called Killing the Business, which I'm actually kind of looking forward to hearing how this went. But, you know, the Young Bucks are masters of self-promotion in this landscape and of the internet era where, you know, that is what you have to do to get noticed. And my microphone is going crazy here. And I'm kind of looking forward to actually checking out that book. So we go into the main card of Revolution. I believe they might have wanted to think about this match order a little bit more, just based on how things played out in the night. And even during one of the matches, I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good. And it didn't work out that way. The opening was Jake Hager versus Dustin Rhodes. The main things, the first thing you see in the arena is AEW have got themselves a video rampway. So very similar to how WWE has like the video rampway stage type of deal. So it looked pretty good. It wasn't a straight ripoff or anything. It was actually just the ramp part. That was a video board. They had their video set up a little differently. They had two kind of regular 16:9 type of panels, stage left and stage right, and then center stage was a tall, long screen. So that was a little different setup than you usually see on Dynamite. And the ramp, like previous pay-per-views, like Full Gear at least, the ramp goes up to the edge of the ring. So it does not go down to the floor. It actually goes right level to the edge of the ring, just like they have done a few times. Also, something that was really cool, they had these LED bracelets that were left on everybody's seat on the side that the camera was facing, and they were all linked up to whatever mechanism or whatever wireless signal they were using, but everybody had like these LED bracelets, and they would light up with the lighting of the entrance or whatever. So that was really cool that they actually had lights in the audience. There was just tons of them. So that was pretty cool. And I did hear that they were actually left on people's seats. So that's how they managed to create the patterns that they did and not have to worry about somebody having a light in a different section or getting the wrong one. So they actually synced them up, put them on people's, because they had like really cool, like alternating section. One section was lit up, and then one will go off and the next one will light up, and they go back and forth, alternating. It was pretty cool how they did that. Anyways, this match starts off when Jake Hager comes out. His wife is in the front row. He gets some cheap heat by having a makeout session with her. Dustin's t-shirt says, "I'm here to fight Jericho's bitch." And as soon as Hager sees it, you can see him mouth to him, "You mother effer." That was pretty funny. They fight out into the crowd, starting off this match. Dustin smashes Jake's hand on the stairs, on the stairway railing. And when they get back to the ring, Dustin runs Jake Hager's arm into the post a bunch of times. They fight onto the outside, and Hager ends up turning things around here at one point. There's a loud Jericho's bitch chant. Hager works a bit of a arm triangle and then kind of like into a modified Kimura. So he's kind of using a bit of the MMA style in his wrestling these days. Dustin ends up hitting a code red at one point. Oh, actually, before that, Hager ends up going for a Vader bomb, but it gets blocked, and then he hits a slam and then actually does hit the Vader bomb for a 2 count. In this match also, there was a spot where Hager goes to the outside and his wife is like giving him direction, like, go break his arm, blah, 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 blah. And Dustin actually gives Hager a big boot and then is talking or whatever, jaw-jacking with Hager's wife. Hager's wife swings at him, but Dustin blocks it, and then he goes in and lays a big kiss on her and like smears his makeup on her face. So she's like, "Oh, that's disgusting. That's disgusting." I don't know how that flies these days, but hey, the crowd was into it and thought it was pretty funny. Dustin sends Hager to the outside at one point, and it's a really good visual. It looked really good just how they shot it. He went over the top rope and he smacked his head, which I don't think he actually smacked his head. He smacked his hand on the ring stairs. But the visual of just how they shot it, they had just enough of the ring in the camera view that his head would fall below the ring level, so you can actually see the contact of the stairs, and they didn't show any other camera angles, so they let the illusion linger, and it sounded and looked really good because he just like sold it like he was knocked unconscious. He just like flopped backwards on the ground. Dustin puts on a arm bar, or hits a code red, and puts on an arm bar, but Hager gets out of it into an ankle lock at this point. Dustin escapes that, but sends Hager in, almost running into Aubrey, and Hager ends up hitting a low blow before she turns around. Hager's puts a standing arm triangle on Dustin, and Dustin passes out. So Hager picks up the win on his first match in AEW. So I thought this was a decent match. Hager did look a little rusty. The submissions he was going for, he didn't lock them in like you would if you're in MMA. So I think that they didn't work as well as they would have if he might have put the body scissors on or something like that. Because it just looks so easy for Dustin to be able to escape. So it didn't feel as realistic as it should have. So I think if he tried to actually apply it a little more realistically, it might work out a little bit better. But there was just some slow spots that he was in these holds, but it just didn't look right. So all in all, I mean, it was a decent match. It was a solid match, but it could have been better. And I think placing it after this next match, so I think switching the first two matches might have been a better way to go, because the next match was Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin. But before that, they ran a short advertisement for March 25th in New Jersey. They are going to have AEW's version of War Games. They are calling the event Blood and Guts, which is a very funny trolling of WWE with Vince McMahon saying, I don't think TNT would like all the blood and guts stuff. So we will see how that goes. But after the show, Tony Khan said that is what they are going to be calling the match. It's a Blood and Guts match. So that should be interesting. So look for that on March 25th. It is basically going to be their version of War Games, and it sounds like they are going to have an entirely enclosed cage like the original War Games and not have a open top like the most recent NXT version of War Games. So next up we have Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara. This match is definitely a serious blood feud between these two. Sammy Guevara obviously using the skateboard to crush Darby Allin's voice box, if you will. And this match doesn't even make it into the ring. As soon as Darby Allin is introduced, well, in the middle of him being introduced, Sammy was on the outside. Darby Allin does a massive dive through the ropes and they fight on the outside. Bell hasn't rung. Sammy gets dropped across the barrier on his stomach. Oh, that looked like it sucked because there was, there's no give in that barrier. Darby then goes into the ring and he goes for a dive with Sammy still draped over the barrier, but Darby ends up catching a foot on the rope and he comes up a bit short, and boy was that scary to see. Because that was basically the same move that the late La Parka had endured the injury that eventually took his life, that he was not able to recover from. So, and that was just back in November. So it was very scary to see that, as it was the same move that killed La Parka. Ultimately killed him at least. But they did replay it, and he did come up a bit short. He did kind of get a little bit of the back of the upper back and head of Sammy, but it was a bit of a crash landing on this one. Sammy hits Darby with Darby's skateboard. Then Sammy sets up a table on the outside, still no bell at this point, and Sammy goes up to the top rope, hits a 630 through the table with Darby being on the table. Finally, these two make their way into the ring and we actually start the match. Darby hits a code red for a 2 count. Sammy hits a Spanish fly off the top for a 2 count, and then Sammy removes the top turnbuckle pad of one of the corners, but he ends up taking a monkey flip into it. Then Allin hits his flip over stunner, quickly goes for the coffin drop, and picks up the win. So this was a very exciting match, and I think starting off the pay-per-view with this match would have been a better idea. But all in all, very good match. After the match is over, Darby drapes Sammy on the middle rope on the ramp side, and he looks like he's going to go grab his skateboard to deal out a little bit more damage to Sammy, but Jake Hager runs down and manages to pull Sammy out of the ring and drags him to safety. So, like I said, very good match, I thought, even though it was nice and short, and the before the match even started, brouhaha was very entertaining. So I really dig this match. Then we had what was like the match of the night. I have 2 full pages of typed notes here because there was a bazillion spots. So I'm going to summarize some of this stuff. But it was the Kenny Omega Hangman Page versus Young Bucks for the AEW tag titles. So before this, they had a very good recap match. That's something that actually I really liked about this show while I'm thinking about it, is that they did recap matches, recap video packages before every match, and it really helped tell the story of what was going into this match. It caught everybody up who had not seen every little bit of stuff. Of course, there are plenty of things that come into play if you're watching absolutely everything, or you've been following these guys since like New Japan and whatnot. There's some callbacks in this match to New Japan. But if you had never seen any other New Japan stuff and you just saw that video package before this match, you would know what's up. And I think that is exactly what they need to do. So you are rewarded for watching even more of their stuff, but you aren't required to be able to get into this match based on the story building into it, because they recap the whole thing. So Hangman's video package was great. When he came in, the tall screen that I was talking about in the middle was actually looked like it was a beer glass, so it was actually like beer being poured into the screen and just filled up, and it was like, bubbly and all that stuff. So I thought that was pretty funny. The background was great. Hangman gets in Matt's face before Omega even comes out. They are jaw-jacking, and very mixed reaction to the Young Bucks, which is really interesting. Hangman got a huge babyface reaction. Kenny got an even bigger one, at least I thought. And they were definitely considered the all-out baby faces on this side. But like I said, the Young Bucks actually did get a bit of a mixed reaction, so it was a mixed bag there. Hangman is ready to go, and he is just pissed about what's going on. He doesn't want his friends to be, trying to take away the title from him, something that he finds very important to him and whatnot, and he doesn't want his friends to take that away from him. Omega's just trying to calm him down, to try to get on, to try to calm him down so everything's okay. Omega and Nick started off. They have some chain wrestling. They have a little bit of a mutual respect moment, and then they both tag out. Very loud cowboy shit chants throughout this entire match in various spots, but it was loud multiple times. Matt and Hangman do a little bit of grappling. Matt offers a handshake to Hangman, and Hangman spits in his face. So that pisses off Matt. Matt is like, screw this. And it is on at this point, and Matt takes down Hangman. He's getting all these punches in. Omega actually gets in to try to pull Matt off. Matt pushes Omega away and starts beating on Hangman some more. And Nick actually runs in and pulls Matt off of Hangman. And to break it up and be like, yo, calm down. You are way too emotional about this type of deal. Nick gets in. Hangman just decks him with a punch. And at this point, Nick is like, screw this as well. And he's like, all right, never mind. My brother was right in what he was doing. He says, screw this. And he tags Matt in, and they throw caution to the wind at this point, and they take out Hangman and Omega with his knee strikes and some double teams and whatnot. Hangman targets Matt's back, which is a bit of a heel move at this point, because everybody knows of Matt's back issues. He's been selling the back issue for like 4 years at this point. And Hangman tags in Omega by smacking him in the chest instead of the reached out hand that Omega had. Omega gives Matt a backbreaker, so he's like, all right, might as well just keep going with this. And obviously, Hangman is having issues with everyone at this point, because he's having issues with his own partner. He's obviously just beating on the Young Bucks and targeting Matt's back and whatnot. Matt gets run into that barricade by Hangman on the outside, and he starts to clear the timekeeper's table. Omega runs over and stops him. He grabs Matt and throws him back into the ring, and is basically like telling Hangman, no, you got do it in the ring. And then Matt's back gets worked over, and then Matt hits a double suplex to Omega and Hangman to get out to get the tag to Nick. Nick runs wild, gives Hangman the finger, and delivers the Bulldog clothesline combo that he likes to do. The crowd is really torn over who to cheer at this point, because obviously Hangman is working Matt's back as kind of like a heel tactic. Of course, then the Bucks are doing stuff that also earn them boos as well. Matt super kicks Kenny out of the air while he's going for the Rise of the Terminator before he can leave the ring, so he bounces off the faraway rope, and he's coming towards the rope that Matt is up on the apron, so he gets a super kick before he actually does the dive onto Nick on the floor. Matt then spits in Hangman's face. So he's like, all right, screw it. I can play this game too. Omega goes for a tag. Nick pulls Hangman off the apron at this point, so they are using, the tactics any way to win at this point. Hangman gets a hot tag and just destroys the Bucks. And some more cowboy shit chants break out. And like I said, there's a bunch of them that happened during this match. Hangman hits the moonsault to the floor, lands nicely on his feet. Hangman runs over Nick with this massive clothesline. He just trucks him, and he actually throws Nick into the Bucks' corner, and as like, tag out, I want to face Matt. So there was a lot of F 'em up, cowboy, F 'em up chants. And then there's some yay boo striking. Omega hits a power bomb at one point for a 2 count after a little bit. Once Hangman gets back in there, Nick gets a ton of strikes. After getting a tag, he hits Hangman and then hits a destroyer on Hangman for a 2 count. This match is insane. Wow, there's still some more. Still got like another half a page here. Nick hits a cheeky Nando's kick, and the Bucks hit a sliced bread powerbomb similar to the Motor City Machine Guns do. I don't remember what they called it, though, which I am feeling bad about right now. Page blocks a super kick, and then Hangman does the twirl around chicken wing call that Marty Scurll does, and he gets Matt into the chicken wing, and then Matt is looking at Nick, and they time it so Matt kind of rolls up towards Hangman's head at the same time that Nick ends up hitting a 450 splash on now Hangman's exposed torso. They get a 2 count there. Omega hits the You Can't Escape on Matt, and then Hangman hits a blockbuster suplex off the top rope onto Nick. Omega V-triggers the back of the head to Matt for a 2 count. Then later on, Omega hits a V-trigger on both of the Bucks, a Snapdragon on Nick twice, and a Tiger Driver 98 for a 2 count. Then V-trigger to the back of Nick's head. Omega gets Nick up onto his shoulders, and he starts climbing the ropes like he's going to give him a one-winged angel off of the top rope. But like the match he did with Pac, he got out of the one-winged angel by hitting a poison Rana off of the second rope. In this case, last time with Pac on Wednesday, it was just in the middle of the ring. Matt hits 3 Northern Light suplexes on Hangman out on the ramp, and Matt lifts Hangman up for an indie taker, and they hit it on the ramp, so they have taken out Hangman on the ramp, but with the indie taker. A lot of boos for that one. The crowd was not happy. They have a super kick party on Omega, both of them individually, and then they both give him a double super kick. More boos again for that, and then the Bucks hit a golden trigger on Omega, which is the Golden Lover, one of the Golden Lovers finishers, hit with Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega. Omega kicks out at 1. He is like fired up. He eats a double super kick for a 2 count, then a massive Kenny chant at this point. Matt stomps on Omega's injured shoulder. A lot of boos again. Nick intervenes to kind of pull him off. Matt is looking at the tape that he had ripped off of Omega's shoulder, kind of like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this to my friend? And Matt lifts Omega up for the Meltzer driver, but Page has come to at this point and pulls Nick off of the apron into a powerbomb position and powerbombs him through a ringside table. They hit the buckshot V-trigger on Matt. Matt kicks out at 2. Omega hits a huge V-trigger on Matt, but Omega's shoulder is too hurt to let him hit the one-winged angel, so Matt gets out of it. Hangman tags himself in at this point and says screw it and hits the one-winged angel on Matt. Nick actually breaks up the pin at this point, and Page throws Nick out onto the ramp. And at this point, Page is like, screw it, everybody else has tried to do their finishers. I'm just going to do it my way. He has Nick out on the ramp. He gives him a buckshot lariat out on the ramp and then goes back to the ring, hits a buckshot lariat on Matt. And then, did I say that correctly? Buckshot out on the ramp with Nick and then goes back to the ring, hits a buckshot on Matt and picks up the victory. Omega and Hangman retain the tag titles. This match went just over a half hour and it was insane. It was one of the, if not the best tag match I have ever seen, because there's just so much story going on here. There's so much everything in play. There's all these little things, especially the call out to Marty Scurll, the use of the now I'm totally spacing the name of it. The Golden Lovers finisher, the Golden Knee or whatever. I totally am spacing on what they used to call it. Anyways, so these call outs to their New Japan time, their friend Marty Scurll, and then all the interaction between Matt and Hangman and Omega and Hangman and Nick. And then Matt beating on Omega and being like, what am I doing to my friend type of deal. And so this match had it all, very story heavy. The action never stopped. It was flying the entire time and everything looked really good. And wow, this is just an amazing match. If you have not seen this pay-per-view, it is worth the money to watch just this match, let alone the rest of the matches that come up. After the match, Matt and Omega kind of make up. They shake hands and all that stuff, and tries to get Hangman to shake his hand, but Hangman decides, "Yeah, I'm not doing this." He steps out of the ring onto the ramp, and he sets down his title, and then he grabs the top rope like he's gonna do a buckshot lariat with Kenny Omega facing away from him. The Bucks get out of the ring on the far side from the ramp. So Kenny Omega just has his back turned to Paige, who is on the ramp. And he turns around and Paige delays for a second. And then he kind of like waves Omega to him to be like, all right, come on, let's go. And he kind of holds the ropes open for him. And they hug and walk away together. So lots of teases in here. There have obviously been issues where between Omega and Hangman, and here they set up heavy tease that Hangman was going to give Omega the buckshot lariat, but he refrained himself from doing so, and then they head off to the back. Next up, I was saying before I even knew which match was next, wow, they are totally screwed, whoever is next. And even if they aren't next, they're going to be totally screwed and should have gone on before this match. And the match that should have gone on before this match was Kris Statlander versus Nyla Rose for the Women's Championship. Oh, man. They start off by showing Statlander's strength. So they have a few spots where Statlander gets out of trouble with Nyla. They actually have a couple spots where Nyla tries to do a running shoulder block on Statlander. She doesn't go down, but eventually after a couple, she does. They mentioned that Statlander actually had the flu all week, which I believe I mentioned in my Dynamite review, as well as one of the reasons why she wasn't even there is because she had the flu all week. They fight out onto the ramp. Nyla throws Statlander towards the ropes because the ramp is at the same level. Statlander decides to go through the ropes into the ring and then goes for like a spear through the ropes out onto the ramp. But she ends up just kind of crashing onto the ramp. Nyla had moved out of the way. Nyla ends up hitting her own spear through the ropes on Statlander with Statlander inside the ring. Nyla gives Statlander a vertical suplex into the turnbuckles, and then Statlander hits a desperation super kick. Both competitors are down at this point. And then Statlander hits a bunch of punches and a forearm and a step-up enziguri. Statlander hits a dive and then drives Rose into the barricade twice. So they did give a decent amount of offense to Statlander. So that was good. Though there was some sloppy spots. There was a spot where Statlander went to do a kip up, but she didn't make it all the way up, so she kind of rolled through backwards. Amazingly, the Chicago crowd didn't chant something like "You effed up," which is kind of a typical of something that obvious that got kind of messed up. So the crowd was kind of willing this match into being good. As good as it could have been, I guess. I have really high hopes for Statlander, but I think just between the two of these, the two of them, both of them being quite green, this match was better than I thought it deserved to be, even though it wasn't even that great. Anyways, Statlander, like I said, got in a bunch of punches. The enziguri hits the dive into the barricade and whatnot. Rose gets rolled into the ring, and Statlander hits a shotgun drop kick off the top rope for a 2 count. Rose sets up Statlander on the top rope, and like she usually does, to do kind of the knee drop across the back. Thank God, in this particular case, Statlander actually did a handstand and a hand walk out away from the ropes. So good on her to not look like a freaking idiot by just laying there on the top rope for like 12 minutes before finally a knee drop comes. So that was good. She ends up walking out of it and kind of posing and blowing Rose a kiss. She ends up hitting a roundhouse kick and then a boop and then a DDT for a 2 count. Rose puts on the STF on Statlander. Nyla pulls her back into the middle of the ring. And then she ends up letting the submission go and went for a splash, but Statlander got her knees up, but that didn't really slow much down. Nyla ends up hitting a powerbomb. Statlander kicks out at 2. Nyla ends up going up to the top rope. Statlander's up fighting with her a little bit and hits a suplex from the top. It looked dangerous because when I saw Statlander missed the rope with her left foot. So when she went to step up onto the top rope, she completely missed it. And I'm not sure if her foot even hit the second rope. So she was falling backwards. So Nyla just kind of went with her. Luckily it worked out. But it could have been really bad if that had happened any other direction. But it ended up turning into like an accidental near miss brainbuster. And then Nyla ends up giving her a big boot, and then Nyla goes up to the top rope herself. Statlander goes up as well and tries to go for a Rana. Nyla ends up stopping it and pulls her up like she's going to do a powerbomb, and she can't get her up like the first time they try, and then she almost gets her up the second and just kind of flops down into what they were calling a beast bomb, but it was kind of a lackluster, I can't lift you, so I'm just going to do this type of move. Luckily, it looked okay. Statlander landed pretty much flat on her back, so it did work out. But again, here's another huge spot where it just kind of got messed up. I mean, Statlander is probably one of the larger opponents that Nyla Rose has faced, so I don't know if she just didn't have the strength to get Statlander up, or because I think Statlander's close to 6 feet tall. I believe she's a big girl. So, and she's not fat or anything, but I mean she's just a really a big person. So, Rose probably isn't used to fighting people near that size at all, and usually smaller than her. So, yeah, like I said, this match was better than I thought it was going to be, but I didn't think it was going to be that great anyways. And like I said, there were definitely some missteps. So this match probably should have gone on before the previous match because the crowd was kind of dead. And like I said, they were hoping to will it into being a good match, so they at least didn't completely turn on them and just like crap all over it. But they weren't exactly loud comparatively to the other matches. So it is what it is. Next up, we had MJF versus Cody, the grudge match of all grudge matches at this point. Like I said, they didn't even have the match on AEW's website on Friday night when I was doing my previous review, so I forgot to even give a prediction for this outcome. Anyways, MJF comes out. His spray tan looks like crap. Yeah, that is not a good look for MJF. He was very orange and very bright. He probably should not have used that much spray tan. Anyways, Cody's music is played live. The band is god-awful. I wish I didn't hear that. They should have just gone with the recorded music. Hopefully that never happens again. Cody has a new tattoo on his neck that goes up almost onto, if not onto, his jawline on the side of his neck. This was a poor decision. I thought, when I first saw it, until it was confirmed later after the show last night, that yes, that is a real tattoo. That is a bad idea. Anybody who has tattoos, perfectly fine. I have plenty of tattoos, but if your only tattoo is a small little tattoo over your heart, your next tattoo should not be this giant thing on the side of your neck when you have plenty of other room to work with. I mean, the design is cool. The location was not a good choice. He has plenty of real estate, of empty real estate where he could have put that thing. But yeah, like a lot of tattoo artists won't even do a tattoo like that unless you are completely covered with tattoos. He has just that one little tiny one over his heart that says dream. I don't know if he has any on his legs or anything like that. But that being his only tattoo, this is the next step. Definitely not the next logical step. So that was a very poor idea. Anyways, we are going to be seeing this tattoo from now on because it is real and is permanent. I was hoping it was a temporary. But anyways, it's the Nightmare family kind of crest shield, kind of a American flag skull type of thing. But it is what it is. Cody looks like he wants to kill MJF. MJF quickly bails out of the ring right away. There's a F him up Cody chant, F him up Cody, F him up chant. And then MJF bails right again and ends up hopping the rail into the crowd. He knocks a beer into a fan. He knocks a fan's hat off. And the crowd starts chanting coward at this point. MJF actually goes in. The ref is counting I think it was around 8. MJF gets into the ring and just rolls right back out, so he just breaks the 10 count, so he has to start over again. Finally, we end up having a striking exchange in the ring with Cody. Cody hits a Cody cutter for a 1 count. He rolls out onto the ramp. That is, MJF rolls out onto the ramp, and Cody is like touching his scar on his forehead, and he thinks about, should I dive outside onto the ramp? No. So he goes to the ramp. He runs up the ramp, like behind the entrance, and then comes barreling down the ramp and hits a flying clothesline onto MJF, who is kind of backed up against the ropes, so he gets flipped back into the ring. MJF stomps on Cody's broken toe, and Cody gives MJF an airplane spin and an Alabama slam. Cody goes for a pin and pulls MJF up after a 1 count. So he wants the punishment to continue. He doesn't want the match to end this quickly. Wardlow then pulls MJF out of the ring, out of harm's way. Brandy ends up throwing a beer in Wardlow's face. Wardlow starts walking her down, but Cody hits a dive onto Wardlow and gets a few stomps in as well, and then heads over to MJF to throw him back into the ring. Wardlow runs Cody into the post behind the ref's back, and then back in the ring, MJF throws Cody into the ring post through the turnbuckle, and MJF ends up doing this interesting move. He trapped Cody's arm behind his back in his own weight belt and then gave him a gut wrench suplex. looked like that could really screw up your arm pretty bad if you did not manage to land correctly or land a little out of the way so your arm actually was not between you and the canvas when you landed. Arm drag into the turnbuckle at this point. MJF starts working over Cody's arm. MJF puts on a submission, and Cody actually has to bite the bottom rope. MJF takes off Cody's boot, and he ends up biting Cody's toe, which gets a "You sick F" chant. Cody hits a top rope front suplex onto MJF, and then hits the disaster kick with MJF on the outside the apron, and then he falls to the floor, MJF that is. And this is where it gets kind of weird, because just remember that Cody hits a top rope front suplex on MJF, and then hits a socked disaster kick. So he hits MJF in the head with his socked foot, not his booted foot anymore, with a disaster kick, and MJF falls off the apron to the floor. Remember that. That's all that happened. Suplex, sock to the face. Some shenanigans ends up happening with Wardlow. Brandy goes for a cross body, and Wardlow catches her. Arn starts walking over there, and then Cody's like, "You put her down," and Cody ends up trying to give Wardlow a boot to the face, but ends up hitting Arn Anderson instead. So the ref goes to check out Arn Anderson on the outside. Cody heads over to MJF to throw him into the ring. MJF is now bleeding. Why? How did that happen? Why did MJF think, "Oh, I'm gonna blade myself after getting kicked in the head with a socked foot?" A very fluffy socked foot, because this guy supposedly has a broken toe, so you wouldn't think he would be wearing, a very thin sock or whatever around his feet. Yeah, this made absolutely no sense. There should have been something else that happened. Some punches or something, but no, a suplex and then a socked foot to the head. Made no sense. So I'm like, why is he bleeding? That makes no sense. So I actually had to rewind it to see what happened, and then I saw those two moves. I'm like, yeah, this makes absolutely no sense. Anyways, MJF is bleeding now. And then we have the shenanigans. Then we have the shenanigans with Cody knocking. I had this out of order. I'm sorry. Cody ends up taking out Arn Anderson behind the ref's back. MJF punches Cody in the balls. Cody kicks out at 2. Cody suplexes MJF over the top rope, and MJF does not let go, and that then in turns pulls Cody over the top rope and slams him down on the floor. I forget who did this spot before. I believe it is Bret Hart and British Bulldog. For some reason, I think they did that spot once, but it would look dangerous as hell, and I would not want to see it, because Cody took a full force suplex to the floor. That did not look fun at all. They both end up answering a 10 count at the same time at 9. They do a striking exchange. Cody drops MJF. He picks up MJF, goes for a crossroads. MJF reverses it into a double cross, but only gets a 2 count on Cody. MJF removes Cody's weight belt. The ref takes it away. Cody then, while the ref is trying to get rid of the weight belt, kicks MJF in the balls, because one good kick deserves another, and hits a vertebreaker, and Cody then manages to get the weight belt and is kind of like pleading with the ref, like, "Can I hit this guy with this weight belt?" And the ref's like, "Okay, you can do that." And he kind of like turns away so he doesn't see it happen. I believe it was the same ref who is out there for the 10 lashings. So I think it might have been MJF's kind of a dick, so I'm just going to turn my head and you can do what you need to do, and then I'm going to turn back around. So I thought it was kind of funny how they did that. So I didn't really have much of an issue, but the reffing staff getting into business for themselves a little bit here, but not a big deal. MJF is now crying after getting whipped twice, and he crawls over to Cody, grabs his leg, and he's like crying at his feet, and he stands up and he hugs him and is like saying, I'm sorry. And then MJF spits in Cody's face. Cody hits 2 crossroads in a row, and for whatever reason, he decides, hey, I'm going to go for a third one. MJF manages to he somehow manages to get out of this. I haven't watched it back, but I think he either got him with an elbow or did like a really big rising knee. So he got out of it, and then he punches Cody, which knocks him out, and then you see MJF taking the dynamite diamond ring off of his finger and putting it in his trunks, and then he flops over onto Cody and gets the 3 count. So this grudge is going to continue, which I thought this is probably the way to go. I did not the specific ending, but I thought MJF has to win this one because he needs to get a little bit of heat back, and you can continue this storyline because it is ridiculously hot. Cody being the biggest babyface in the company, and MJF being the most hated person on that roster, it makes sense that they continue this feud. All right, so next up we have what I thought was definitely going to be probably one of the best matches on the show, and I was so damn entertained that I forgot to take notes. So I had to watch it again because I was so damn entertained the first time that I could not take my eyes off the screen, and I couldn't even think about typing notes because it was just hilarious. I was in stitches. I thought this match was wonderful, and this is exactly how they need to be using Orange Cassidy, and he was facing Pac. So right when the match is about to start, the crowd is chanting, he's gonna try. They had so many funny chants throughout this entire match. It was great. At one time, they have the he's gonna try chant. They have a this is awesome chant. They have a fight forever chant. They have a no pulp chant. So they had all these great chants, and they are staring each other down before anything even happens. They're just in the ring looking at each other, and the entire crowd is chanting, holy shit. And nothing had even happened yet. And then Orange Cassidy puts his hands above his head, and he looks like he's going to go put his hands in his pockets. Pac stops him, and Orange Cassidy is just like looking at him. And then he starts he quickly weasels his way around and then flips Pac onto his back, and Pac is like, what is going on? And then nothing has even happened yet at this point. The crowd starts chanting, this is awesome. They exchange some weak kicks, and after this spot, the crowd is chanting fight forever. So nothing has even really major happened. They just exchanged the weak kicks, and everybody's going, oh, every time that Orange Cassidy just kind of kicks Pac in the shin, and then Pac is kicking him back in the shin. Like, this does nothing. I don't know why you're doing it for. And then the crowd is so insanely hot for this match. Pac gets a massive boo after he gives Cassidy like a backbreaker, which is kind of like the first major offensive move that Pac gets in on this match. They fight on the outside. Pac throws Orange Cassidy into the barricade and then into the ring post and hits a huge shotgun dropkick off the top rope and sends Orange Cassidy like from the middle of the ring all the way to like one of the turnbuckles. And then Orange Cassidy, on the first major kick out of his AEW career, kicks out of a power bomb, and this is where the crowd chants "No pulp." Orange Cassidy takes a avalanche brainbuster off the top rope. Pac pulls up Orange Cassidy after the 2 count. So he wants to continue this beating. Pac sets up Orange Cassidy for a black arrow, but Orange Cassidy rolls away, and he just rolls and rolls and rolls and flops out of the ring on one side. So Pac goes to the outside and throws him into the ring. He goes back up to the top rope like he's going to hit a black arrow, and Orange Cassidy rolls and rolls and rolls and flops out of the ring on the other side. Then Pac goes back out to the outside. He throws Orange Cassidy into the ring. Orange Cassidy just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling, and then Pac walks around to the other side of the ring, and Orange Cassidy is like 2 more rolls from the edge, and he finds himself staring at Pac and gives him this massive smile. So Pac at this point turns his back to Orange Cassidy and is like looking at the crowd. It's like, what the heck what the heck is this guy doing? Orange Cassidy in the background kips up, has his hands in his pockets, and while Pac has his back turned, he starts walking around kind of the edge of the ring, and Orange Cassidy hits him with a massive dive, then throws Pac back into the ring. He ends up hitting a crossbody off the top rope, and then hits a swinging DDT on Pac for a 2 count. Then Orange Cassidy ends up hitting a Superman punch and then a Stun Dog Millionaire, and then goes up to the top rope, and Pac stops him, but he ends up getting Orange Cassidy ends up reversing that into a DDT off the top rope. Orange Cassidy goes back up to the top rope again and hits this flying DDT off the top. And Pac, at this time, he himself rolls out of the ring, but he rolls up onto the ramp. Orange Cassidy hits an air raid crash for a 2 count, and then the Lucha Bros run out and attack Best Friends, who had accompanied Orange Cassidy to ringside. They brawl out on the ramp, and they brawl to the back. Orange Cassidy is distracted by this. He's watching his friends get beat up by the Lucha Bros. He's like, what the heck is going on? He turns around. Pac just takes him to the ground, puts on the brutalizer, and Orange Cassidy submits immediately. Pac refuses to release the hold after the bell. Orange Cassidy then passes out, and the ref is trying to get him to release the hold, and he takes a good long time and then just drops Orange Cassidy. So this match was awesome. I'm going to say this was my second favorite match on the show behind the tag match, because that tag match was awesome, but this match was so damn entertaining. Like I said, I forgot to take notes the first time, so I had to watch it back again before I could do this review, because it was so damn entertaining. So go check that out. Definitely worth it. And then last up, we have the main event of the evening, which is Jon Moxley versus Chris Jericho for the AEW World title. Jericho actually has a choir singing his theme song. This was so outlandish and over the top that it totally plays into something that Jericho would do. So it ended up being amazing that this happened. So they had a choir singing his theme song, and then after they got through like the first verse and chorus, they might have actually made it to the second chorus, and then Jericho's entrance music plays, and Jericho makes his entrance, accompanied by Santana and Ortiz, to the ring. They both get very extended introductions, and I didn't write them down, but I remember Jake Roberts was talking about Moxley, and he says, he is zero. I'm going to have to paraphrase this. He has 0 F's given. So that was pretty funny. And again, Jericho had a really long, funny introduction as well. So go check those out. I did not write them word for word, and I can't even remember Jericho's, but it was funny. They start brawling right away. They fight to the outside. They fight into the crowd, and immediately, or almost immediately at this point. So the ref Aubrey is the ref for this because Jericho always requests her to ref his matches at this point. She is giving a lot of leeway because she understands that Jericho is probably just trying to get disqualified so he can retain the title. So it looks like disqualifications will have title retention in AEW, but she lets it go because she wants a winner in this. Jericho does his good old grab a camera and do some filming of his own and flipping off Moxley. He actually ends up picking up one of the barricades as they make their way back to the ring and throwing it on Moxley. Moxley then retaliates by biting Jericho's face. Jericho has like 11 stitches from getting busted open on Wednesday. And then Moxley gets sent into the ring post, and he gets busted up hard way right above the eye that he has his eye patch on. And it just continues to bleed throughout the match. And it was actually, I saw the post, the media scrum afterwards, and the media, the press conference or whatever with Moxley, and that is a very big gash. It looks like it was actually like 3 gashes right on top of each other, so it looked pretty bad. So he's gonna have a nice scar. I bet Renee is gonna love that one. Moxley, Jericho. So right after the getting run into the ring post, Jericho gives a power bomb through the timekeeper table with the ring bell still on it to Moxley. So Moxley like lands on the ring bell. And then finally, they move into the ring. A bit of back and forth. Santana actually beats on Moxley while Jericho distracts the ref for a little bit when Moxley gets sent to the outside. Moxley and Jericho have a striking exchange on the outside, and Moxley is sent into the ringside stairs. Moxley hits this flying elbow off the top rope and starts to take over a little bit. Moxley fights out of a lion tamer into a heel hook. They did show some training footage of Moxley. Don't know if they showed it on this. I watched so much in one shot, but on the Road to Revolution, or the hype show that was on Wednesday night after Dynamite, they showed Moxley training with Randy Couture. So he was getting all these tips of how to escape these holds and how to counter holds into other holds. So that was pretty cool. So this kind of played into it because Randy Couture was showing Moxley how to escape the lion tamer. So this came into play. He fights out of the lion tamer, and he hits this running knee for a 2 count. Santana and Ortiz get involved again. Ortiz hits Moxley with the mad ball, or the sock filled with whatever. Jericho hits a lion salt at this point for a 2 count, and then Moxley catches a code breaker and fights out of another lion tamer, and actually puts a lion tamer on Jericho. At this point, Jake Hager runs down, and Jericho hits a code breaker for a 2 count. Jericho puts the walls of Jericho, or the lion tamer, whatever you want to call it, onto Moxley. Moxley manages to make it to the rope. Jericho and Aubrey have a little bit of their classic spats. Jericho kind of pushed her a couple times, kind of like slapped her on the arm. I think he might have even slapped her on the ass once, trying to get eliminated or trying to get disqualified. And while this is going on, Hager punches Moxley right as Aubrey turns her head to see it. She throws out Hager, Santana, and Ortiz. And while she's doing that, while she has her back turned, making sure those guys leave, Sammy runs through the crowd, runs in, hits Moxley with the championship belt, and then runs back off through the crowd. Moxley kicks out. They have a striking exchange. Moxley is bleeding some more from over the eye with the eye patch. Jericho decides, hey, if he can't see out of one eye, why don't I just work on his good eye? So he gouges Moxley's good eye and then kicks him in the face and punches him in the face. And then Moxley is acting like he can't see. Jericho comes over to him. Moxley quickly hits a double underhook DDT. And after that, he was looking into the crowd and he pulls off the eye patch. His eye is fine. He can see just fine. He stands up. hits a paradigm shift on Chris Jericho and pins Chris Jericho to become the new AEW World Champion. I thought this was a really good match. I thought they thought it out really well. They laid it out really well. And I really had no problem going with Jon Moxley. I cannot remember what I said for my predictions. I thought I said something along the lines of, I thought if the women's match and the tag match were retentions, that they were going to switch the title in the main event. I think I said that. If I didn't, well, oh well, I think I said that. So I really had no problem with this. They could have gone either way because Jericho has been awesome as the champion, and Moxley is going to be good as the champion anyways. So I don't think this is going to be a problem. And I am just looking forward to all the whiny promos that Jericho is going to be making over the next few weeks after losing his championship. And will they go for a rematch at some point? Are they going to make that part of the Blood and Guts pay-per-view? Are they going to hold off the rematch until Double or Nothing and do it again? I think one of the things that they were trying to get away from, Jericho is going to be doing some international touring with his band during the summer. So I think their thinking might have been, well, if Jericho's going to go do that and we leave the title on him up until Double or Nothing, we might be telegraphing taking the title off of Jericho, because it's like, well, Jericho's not going to be around for a good hunk of the summer, so we'll probably have to take it off of him anyway. So doing it here, because I did not know about the tour dates until Thursday, I think, is when I found out about the tour dates. Not Thursday. This morning, I didn't find out about the tour dates because I am totally messed up on what day it is today. And so the tour dates would keep him away for the summer, and obviously that would not work out very good. So taking off the title now probably works to the advantage, because I think everybody is really 50-50 on what was going to happen, because I don't think everybody had a positive argument why either could happen, that Jericho could retain or that Moxley could take the title off of him, because either way is a perfectly fine decision. I don't think there was really a downside to going either direction. Jon Moxley was so hot at this point, there was no reason not to give it to him. And then same thing, Jericho's been so good, there's no reason not to let him keep it. So really it's a a coin toss at this point, and they decided to go with Moxley, and that's just fine with me. I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes. And now with Moxley being one of the biggest baby faces, who are they going to line up for him, and who might be the next person to take the title off of him? Everybody's thinking that Omega would be next in line to Jericho if Jericho had retained. But with Moxley taking it and Omega being a huge baby face as well, are they going to maybe push it out and maybe at All Out Omega can take the title, or maybe even go out to Full Gear that Omega could take the title off of Moxley? But two baby faces going one-on-one can be problematic. But I think between the two of them, they could probably figure out a way to make it work. But like I said, time will tell. After the match, Moxley cuts a really good promo. He says he loves wrestling, and it's been a really long year for him, coming over to AEW. He didn't specifically say these things, he just alluded, because he's not going to say, I left WWE, about all that stuff, and came to AEW. He just says it was really good, really long year. He says that the AE Championship and AEW in general belongs to the fans, that he is very gracious to everything that the fans have given him over the over the past year and how all that stuff worked out. He then said, well, anyways, I don't know what else to say, so I think it's about beer o'clock at this point. And he's kind of looking to the back, and I didn't know what was supposed to happen, if anything was supposed to happen, or if he just kind of lost his train of thought and he had to think for a few minutes, or, well, not think for a few minutes, but for a few seconds. And then he's about to start talking again, and his music hits, and he's like, what the F? And then they turn off his music. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing up here. I'm just making up as I go. And then he cuts the kind of the white meat baby face that, I'm here. I'm a fighting champion. I will take on anybody who they put up in front of me, and I will knock them all down. And but now I'm going to go down some whiskey. And then he throws the mic and calls it good and makes his way out. So this was a very good pay-per-view. Ran about 3.5 hours without the pre-show, so about 4 hours if you caught the pre-show about a half hour in. I don't know what happened to that. I thought it was going to be a 7 o'clock start time for the pre-show, but that didn't happen. Also, there was a match on the pre-show. I believe Britt Baker and somebody else was against Yuka Sakazaki with somebody else as well. So I don't know what happened in that, and it was not televised. They decided to just do a half-hour buy-in. And like I said, they kind of screwed it up by not having it on YouTube, and then it was hard to find. Then it ended up being on Fight and BR and on Twitter. But yeah, so that was a little bit of a pain in the butt, but it is what it is. So overall, I thought this was a very wonderful pay-per-view. It was worth every penny, and with them having to actually earn people's money to buy the pay-per-views, they should be making cards that you actually want to see and want to actually pay for. And I believe they delivered on this show with a bunch of really great matches. The women's match, again, has obviously been a little bit of a disappointment in AEW, the women's division in general. I think they really need to... I don't know why they put it on Nyla Rose. I believe Nyla Rose is just too green. And if Nyla Rose is going to be going in there with other green opponents, then you're going to end up with matches like this. And I think that's probably just a bad idea. If you're going to have her have any matches, Nyla Rose should be facing veterans that can put together a match and can do that kind of stuff. Nothing against Kris Statlander, because I think Kris Statlander has a huge upside. And I hopefully that she will be champion someday, and hopefully they can flesh out her character a little bit more, but it is what it is. So that is all I have for this evening. Thanks for tuning into my review of AEW Revolution 2020. I don't know if they'll continue that name. I don't know if they're going to continue Full Gear, but they've kept Double or Nothing and All Out, so we will see. If you're interested in being a co-host for this show, shoot me an email, eric@thatswrestling.com, whether you want to do New Japan, AEW, or both, or just be a fill-in when I can't get somebody. That would be fine as well. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, mailbag, whatever, shoot me an email, eric@thatswrestling.com. You can find me over on Twitter, that's wrestling1 with the number 1. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can pick this up as a podcast over at thatswrestling.com, or you can search for it in your favorite podcast app and it should be in there. If you can't find it, shoot me an email, eric@thatswrestling.com. Let me know what app you can't find it in so I can get it submitted. If you are listening to this as a podcast, I do these shows live over on YouTube. So if you would like to join me for the live discussion, you can head over to YouTube and search for That's Wrestling. The show should come up. Also, the link is in the show notes of the podcast as well. So that is it. Thanks for listening or watching, and I will see you next time on That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.